Okay, I almost did it again. I almost went live without a microphone. Because, yeah, I've been doing this for like a year now. Jeez. Oh, boy, oh boy. Oh my gosh, that's giant. Okay, say I'm going to figure design that in the designer that problem is. Okay, we've got that sorted out. So I think for those of you that may ever decide to get into the crazy business of streaming, I think the canvas, when I design it in the streaming platform I use, OBS, Open Broadcast System, I think you define the dimensions of the canvas. Then when you add every element as a layer on top, I think the mistake I'm making is I think the canvas is a different resolution than when I define each element. So I got to go back and check some of that. Not that any of you care, but just throwing it out there in case any of you guys are silly enough to do this. It's fun. I recommend doing it, but it's an interesting thing to do. Okay, so today's initial topic is hiring. The company where I'm spending most of my time is ramping up hiring. So I thought it was a good time. It's front of mind. I try to always have topics that are front of mind. I feel like I'm more effective at sharing my experiences and thoughts and opinions when it's front of mind versus I'm just trying to make up a topic. So hiring is one of those things that will make or break you because the expense of a bad hire very, very challenging. And what's even crazier is the expense of an okay hire. Somebody that's just kind of floating along, just good enough that maybe the team is a little frustrated about, but not too frustrated about. So there's a lot of coaching and everything that goes along with that. That's an expensive thing. So one of the things, like the number one rule for me, and the way that I coach people whenever I start hiring somewhere new, we spend a lot of time talking about what a good hire looks like, what we're looking for. I try and provide a lot of support for folks when they're going through the hiring process because uh, it's not something you do all the time. It's not like a sprint where every 2 weeks you're going to do it. You're going to have your sprint planning, you're going to have your retrospective, you're going to have your sprint review, and you can practice it 26 times each year. It's not like that. You don't have the opportunity to practice it as often as you like. So it's hard to get good at things when you don't do them as often as many other things. So the number one rule for me is never lower the bar. Keep the bar high. So many times I see organizations rush to get a butt in a seat. Maybe they've been struggling to find that right person, been some number of months. There's somebody that is deemed good enough. And I say it with that question in my tone because not everybody agrees, but let's just go ahead and hire the person. That's not to say that I haven't taken a flyer on somebody, but I'm only willing to take a flyer on somebody when I think there's real potential and I'm excited, but maybe they're not there yet. I only take a flyer on people when I know I have a super healthy organization that I can count on to grow them in the ways that they need to grow. That's relatively rare. Don't start there. Once you've built a fantastic organization, then it's time. Then it's time to go ahead and say, you know what? This person's good, but they're not there. They haven't done yet. They're missing this thing. But if you can look at your organization and know, really confidently know that they can help grow that person in the way they need to grow, then do it. But be sure you can support them. Be sure you're asking fairly of your organization. So many times companies are willing to take a flyer, but the organization is not ready to support that person in the way that they need supported. Maybe there's so many things that aren't in place yet that would prevent that your organization from helping to ensure the success of that person. So rule number 1, don't go with maybe. As I'm coaching teams and we're talking through, should we hire a person? The reminder I try and tell people is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And like, everybody's got to be super excited. This is the person. I want people like kicking down my door asking why I haven't offered this person and why I've even let them leave the building without an offer. Yes, that actually has happened. That people have done that, and that's when you know you've hit it. Cool. Okay, that's great. Got them in the door. So now that's actually the easy part. The harder part that I found is building a pipeline of candidates. Where do you get people to apply? How do you get them to apply? How do you work with recruiters? Another massive mistake that I see people make is, if they choose to work with recruiters or a recruiting organization, they severely underinvest in that relationship. That's like asking somebody to go find you or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, but you're only really willing to spend time with them over a lunch. I'm gonna give you like 45 minutes of my time, and I want you to go to find that perfect match for me. That's totally unfair to expect someone to know that. Too often, organizations rely on a bunch of check boxes. And the challenge is, that's how recruiters like to work. Because it's really hard to be a good matchmaker, spend time with someone, especially if they're not willing to invest. It's really hard as a recruiter to spend time with somebody and understand what that person is looking for. Because unfortunately, so few organizations have spent time really defining what a successful candidate looks like for them. So they default to, well, they need X number of years this, X number of years that, so on and so forth. It becomes this checklist. That's one thing that I never try to do, is I never try to hire via a checklist. Go find me a person that can check off these boxes. That's lazy. That's lazy from both the recruiting organization, that's lazy from the hiring org. It's lazy from the hiring org because you haven't invested the time in really defining what a great hire looks like for you. That's the challenge, friends, is really being retrospective, really being honest with what a great hire looks like in your organization. It's not the same everywhere. So you have to spend time defining it. Otherwise, how do you expect a recruiter to find somebody? The other piece of that recruiter engagement is, you have to treat it like a product. You have to provide continuous, well-formed, well-thought-out feedback. Imagine if you're building a product, you have users using it, but you have no way of knowing if they're happy. They kind of use it every once in a while. Sometimes they use it a lot, sometimes they use it a little. Try and engage with them. They don't respond, they don't answer any questions. You ship a new feature, some use it, some don't. That's really hard. So having a good, healthy dialogue with your recruiter, internal or external, it doesn't matter. You gotta have a great dialogue. You gotta have that feedback loop to ensure that that recruiter can be successful. The number one place where people drop the ball is when they receive a candidate that's not a good fit. And they choose not to invest the time and explain to that recruiter why that person's not a good fit. Yet they somehow hope that that recruiter can intuit why you didn't like that person, why they weren't a good fit. Thank you for the follow, Mighty Core. Good to have you. We're talking about hiring today. Right now, I'm spending a lot of my time talking about the hiring process and how one goes about hiring well in an organization. So as I go back, a little recap after a handful of minutes in. It's about investing brain power, effort, and energy. I'll get there, VA Agile. I'm to the point now where I can, about 10 minutes in, know if this is going to go well. And then from there on out, I fine tune. I figure out how things go. I want to stay focused on the pipeline because that's where I think people underinvest in refining. The most success I've ever had with a hiring process, we got to metric where we measured the percentage of people that we brought in the door for a face-to-face with our team. We measure the percentage of people that came in that we actually hired. The best I've ever done, the gold standard for me was one time we got to 75%. The reason that was important was interviewing is a distraction to our team. It's important. I'm not suggesting it's not important, but you can't always plan that time into a sprint. So that multi-hour block of bringing somebody in and asking the team to break away from what they're doing, that's a distraction. We wanted to minimize that as much as possible by bringing in only truly highly qualified people. And like I said, the best we ever got was we got to a point where 75% of the people that we brought in hired. Fantastic. But that only happened if you invest further up in the process, further up in the pipeline. And step one is that relationship with that recruiter that you're working with. They're internal or external. You have to spend a lot of time with them. Things I've done to improve that relationship is I volunteered to go to the recruiting company's office and I sat down for an hour and a half with the recruiting team and explained what I was looking for. Let them ask me questions. I talk through things I look for in a resume that I like, that give me a good indication that that's going to be a good hire. Because I recognize that the way I hire is different from most of the clients that they work with. Most of the clients that they work with are lazier about it and will just give them a checklist. Find me somebody with this degree, this many years of JavaScript, this many years of SQL, whatever it may be. If you do that, then send them my way. From my perspective, you're not getting your money's worth from that recruiter. You're paying a significant amount of money, anywhere from 15 to 25% of that first year salary to that recruiting company. And if all you're doing is giving them a set of search terms, what value are you getting? So I really push the recruiting companies I work with to only send me really highly qualified people. And I want them to ask some of the questions I would ask. I want them to be that first filter, not just Google for resumes. Like, there's no value in that. So, okay. I'm going to, as discussed, those of you that are new may not know this, but one of the things we're trying after a bit of feedback from my customers, you all the viewers, is a recap every 15 minutes. So I'm going to hit this 30-second ad break. The reason I do the 30-second ad break is that prevents pre-roll ads. So maybe you joined the stream and you had to wait a certain number of seconds or minutes for that ad to run. Every time I run a 30-second ad, it gives me a 10-minute buffer of allowing new viewers to come in without seeing that. while that ad's running, I'm going to recap my thoughts, come back, give a recap, then VA Agile, I'm going to dig into your question and talk through how I do. So in the meantime, if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button. If you have Amazon Prime, it is free. I appreciate that. Helps support the stream and everything we do, keeps me coming back, keeps me excited. All of the follows and subscribers, that's the fuel for my fire. So thank you for those that have, and thank you for those that will. We're gonna hit this ad. I'm gonna get my thoughts, and we'll recap in a minute. Okay, we are back. I just saw two ads, one for Head and Shoulders and one for WWE toys. One of the things that, if you are a subscriber, I don't think subscribers see those ads. So you may have just seen me staring at a piece of paper while I write things down, write a couple notes down. Okay, recap. The two key things that I hit this first few minutes or so of the stream is don't settle. Hire the absolute best. It's okay if your hiring process takes longer than you'd like. It's okay if it takes you another month to find that right person. But finding that really right person is so much more valuable than just going with somebody just because. Now, once you've built an organization that's strong enough, taking flyers, taking a chance on somebody, you're in a better spot to do that because you have an organization that can groom them. It doesn't require you to invest your personal time and energy to do that while you're also trying to build the team and build a product and build a process and all those things. Number one, don't settle. Number two, invest in the top of the pipeline. Invest in really building a great relationship with your recruiter, internal or external. So I dug into a ton of details with that. Okay, VA Agile. Your question. Yes, I've been able to sharpen my spider senses, but I don't know that there's a silver bullet for that. I've had the positive and negative experience of having to hire hundreds of engineers. Positive because it gave me the opportunity to refine my process. Negative because in times in my career, I had to do that because I was with a company that was unwilling to invest in engineers. So I would hire great folks, groom them, they'd become fantastic. The company would be unwilling to pay them what they deserved, and they went and found that money elsewhere. So that created a bit of a revolving door for me, which was frustrating at the time, but in the end, it forced me to really refine my hiring process. Okay, so spider senses. What are the things I see or hear that give me that, ooh, this is going to go well? First thing is just the tone in which they speak. When they start talking about previous work, what pronouns are they using? Are they saying I, or are they using we? One of the key things that I look for when hiring somebody, especially because the way I roll is typically some agile flavor. I want somebody that's team centric, that's team first. You learn a lot by just the words they use in common dialogue. Was it I did this? I did that. I learned this. Was it we? We succeeded. We failed. We struggled. We grew. We built. That's the first thing. And that happens really fast. Just that tone, you can tell, you can feel it. Secondly, are they confident and willing to have a dialogue? Or are they quick to acquiesce to anything that you say? That doesn't mean that people can't agree with what I'm saying, but I want it to be well thought out. So as you're having this dialogue, and to me, that's what an interview is it's a dialogue. It's not a set of questions. There are typical questions that I use, but I let it flow a bit more naturally than most people. I like to understand where that person's passions are, because that's where you really see who they are. You find that thing that they're passionate about. Maybe it's database, maybe it's front end, maybe it's a thing they built. Maybe I don't know what it is. Whatever it might be, find that, get them in their passionate area and have a discussion with them. Ask them why they did a thing. Ask them why they did it this way instead of that. What I'm looking for in that instance is, do they really have deep knowledge? The reason why that's important is building software is really hard. And it's hard to engineer a great solution without deep technical knowledge. I'm not talking about, can they answer trivia questions about what's the third parameter optional in the toString method in JavaScript. That stuff doesn't matter. That's what Google's for. What I'm talking about is, do they really understand why they built it this way versus that? It's okay for people to learn and understand things from articles, but too often engineers ride this wave of Stack Overflow or of the last Google search. That's the last new cool way to build software. You can do that, but did you then take the time to really invest in your craft and understand why this method is better than that method? That's what I'm looking for. I am looking for someone that really values the craft of software engineering, is willing to invest the time to understand why you should do X instead of Y. Those are two key things for me that I start to get a good sense. Start to understand when you ask the why question. Well, why'd you do it like that? Or why didn't you do it like that? And someone with real depth, someone that really invested in building a quality product, is going to have spent time. Maybe they built a couple POCs and the first way didn't work because performance was a challenge, or the second way didn't work because the learning curve was too high, or whatever it might be. I don't know. But you don't want a group of engineers that just copy and paste from Stack Overflow. Not saying there's not value in Stack Overflow, but those need to be directional guidance. Like, hey, go here, go figure this out. Here's how I did it. Not, oh, I read it in the Stack Overflow post, or I read this article, or I watched this video. Right? That can't be where you stop your investigation. That's got to be the starting point, not the ending point. VA Agile, I hope I answered your question. If you'd like me to dig further in any of those things, or want me to talk more about that, I'd be happy to. We have a unusually light viewer count today, so it's whatever you want, VA Agile. I'm here for you today. Let's see what else. What other spidey sensey things are there? Talk about resume. I get a good spider sense about somebody in their resume when they mention change that they drove. That's one of the key questions I have recruiters ask, is talk about something that you changed in the previous job. Oh boy, growth mindset, absolutely. So what I'm looking for is people that are unwilling to accept the things the way they are. So maybe source control where they were was a disaster. So they helped the team migrate to Git or GitLab or whatever it might be. I don't care what it is. What I care about is they were able to look around and say, we are really wasting time and energy on this. And I'm not okay with that. I'm going to find a way to make this better. I found that when you build a team of smart people that learn quickly, and that's really the definition for me, is learning quickly. When you have a group of people that are able and willing to learn quickly, yet are unwilling to accept things the way they are and actually do something about it, then you're in great shape. And I've found that those are two key factors for growth mindset. Number one is a willingness and a capacity to learn. Every organization I've ever been in building software, the tools we used on day one were different from the tools we used when I walked out the door on that last day. That's the world we live in. We're not writing COBOL, right? Like that's not a thing. Most of the places where I've been, some sort of web product that has changed drastically over the past 20 years. And I think about back in the day when I was doing classic ASP, like SQL Server 7 or whatever it was. 20 years later, React, Vue, Angular, all these different middleware technologies, different backends. All these things that are out there are different, and they've changed a lot. Just Angular. Think about Angular. If you've spent time with Angular, there's like classic Angular and the new Angular. One of them's Angular, one of them's Angular JS. I get confused which one is which, but that's a definitive difference. So that growth mindset for me is a willingness and a capacity to learn quickly. Not just technology, but the way we work. I want people that value reducing waste, that are uncomfortable when things don't go the way they'd like and are going to do something about it. Like that's one of the biggest problems. I tell you what, COBOL consistently pays well. And the reason COBOL consistently pays well is it's a supply and demand thing. There aren't that many new engineers coming into the workforce that know COBOL or are willing to invest in learning COBOL. There was a guy, 20 years ago. I rode the bus to work and he was working COBOL for a bank. We both worked in downtown. I was working for a .com at the time. He was working for a bank. I'm like, holy crap, you're doing COBOL? Like I would pull my hair out. And he started talking about how much money he makes because of COBOL. And it's just one of those things that from a talent pool, it's a shrinking talent pool. So it truly is a supply and demand thing for engineers. The challenge you have is what happens when banks or organizations migrate away from COBOL. I think just as the talent pool for COBOL has shrunk, I think over time, the jobs for COBOL is going to shrink. So if you decide to invest in COBOL and make a ton of money, which you will, really encourage you to have an exit strategy for when COBOL's not a thing. Now, maybe you're towards the end of your career and you're like, I've got like 5 or 10 more years and I'm going to retire. Cool. Then maybe COBOL's the thing for you. I don't think COBOL's going to go away in that time frame. But I think if you're a newer engineer and you've got 30, 40 years in front of you, make sure you have an exit plan. Because at some point, I imagine COBOL is going to go away. I learned COBOL in college. I was okay with it. Didn't hate it. The thing that bothered me most was just the amount of typing I had to do to get something done. Yeah. So on the growth mindset. By the way, VA Agile, thanks for being up early again. Appreciate that. Thanks for being here on a Saturday morning for you, I assume. Okay. So, what else about growth mindset? How do I determine if that growth mindset is there? I personally, I am more comfortable with engineers that have moved around. I am uncomfortable with a candidate that comes in that's been at IBM or Cisco. Those are big companies near us. That they've been there for 20 years. Again, not that that's a bad thing. That might be right for them, but I value an engineer that is seeking new problems. That can happen if you've been in IBM for 20 years. Maybe you've moved through their organization over that time period and you change orgs, you've worked on different projects and all those things. That's what I'm looking for. I get uncomfortable again because of that growth mindset and how important it is with getting comfortable. Because we're not going to be in a situation where comfort is okay. We are going to aggressively change, aggressively grow, aggressively improve. When you've become comfortable and you've done things the same way for decades, coming into an organization like the kind that I like to operate, that's going to be a real challenge. It's going to be very uncomfortable, probably too uncomfortable to where you're unhappy. I just want people to be happy. Like if that's what's right for you, bless you, right? Go do that. That's what you should do. But in an organization that I'm leading, we're going to change. We're going to evolve, and it's going to happen pretty darn rapidly. So I like to see evidence that they're already doing that. And if they're doing that, then my history has shown that they really value being in the types of orgs that I build because we do that at hyperspeed. Okay. What else you got, VA Agile? Maybe you're getting sleepy. How do we get more people from Australia to tune in? We need like launch a campaign. I mean, it's super late for you and you're online. I got people here on the East Coast. They aren't even here. Like almost lunchtime for them. What's going on? You're making them look bad, VA Agile. Yes. Yes, I have hired someone just because I needed a warm body. And there's a reason that's the first thing I talked about in the start of the stream. That never worked well for me. I never got lucky. Never got lucky that we're going to settle for this person. And that sounds terrible, right? We're going to decide to hire this person, even though we're not supremely excited about them joining. It's just, we just need hands on keyboard. The likelihood of that working is relatively low. That's why the very first thing I talked about in the stream is don't do that. Wait another month. Wait another 6 weeks. The world's not going to end because the value of hiring that person that's the right fit. And what you're looking for is the right fit for you. Not everybody's the right fit for you and your team. So it doesn't mean that that person that maybe you hired because they were warm body, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means they're not the best fit for you. They're the best fit for somewhere else. And luckily, in our industry, there's a ton of places to go. So, Charles, That's because what I go back to the first part is so many people are lazy, right? So they saw that you've been in the company for 20 years or 28 years, and they stopped there. They didn't really invest in understanding you. Like, oh, okay, so yeah, this guy was at IBM for 28 years. But he moved around and he tried new things and he did different things and roles changed and was growing all of the time. That is easier for recruiters to identify when there's more movement in a career. Oftentimes, recruiters find the cheap and easiest way to fill that position to check those boxes. So my argument would be is them, you're actually rejecting them in that instance, because that's not a company that's willing to spend the time to actually read and understand the resume and say, oh man, Charles did a lot of cool stuff there. Yeah, he was in one spot, but that one spot enabled him to try different things and grow and evolve. That's the kind of person for us. So if they're not willing to spend the time to really understand that from your resume, are you going to be happy there? My assumption is you fast forward a year and a half, maybe a year, maybe 6 months, you're going to see more evidence of that laziness throughout the organization. Because it doesn't sound like you were lazy at the company that you were at, or you did a bunch of different things. You didn't become complacent. You didn't get comfortable. You pushed yourself. You challenged yourself. They didn't even challenge themselves to read the resume completely. They just looked and they saw one big block of Charles at company X. They just moved on. You don't want to work for a company like that. I know it might sting in the moment. Maybe it's somewhere that you think is cool, but that's evidence. That's evidence of them not being the type of place you want to work. What I've found is I view those as gifts. So that's a gift. That's a company showing you early that they're not like you. They're not a good fit for you. I get it. It's not what you want. Maybe you were excited about the job posting. Maybe it sounded cool. And the company might be cool. The problem might just be the hiring manager, which that's a real pain in the butt, because the company might be awesome. You might have friends that work there that you're really excited about, but that hiring manager hasn't figured out how to hire well. They haven't listened to my podcast. They're not here on this stream learning how to look at a resume, how to invest with recruiters to really understand who someone is. And I quite honestly, resumes are really frustrating to me, because it really is hard to understand who someone is. Hey, Scrum Sarge. Thanks for 11 months in a row. Can you believe that? That's fantastic. Hey, Lori Blues here. I was just giving you guys a hard time, because VA Agile was here from all the way from Australia, up early. Yeah, I even, Charles, I've even gone so far as I don't even send people my resume. Like, people ask for a resume and I say no. I point them towards my LinkedIn. And the reason why I point towards LinkedIn is I found that I can express who I am more in LinkedIn than a regular resume. So there's links to talks I've given or my podcast, things like that, where they can if they get it, they're going to spend a little time watching a video, reading my website, listening to a podcast. So I've gotten to the point where when there's a position I'm looking at and somebody asks, hey, do you have your resume I can send to them? I say, no, I don't have a resume. I've got LinkedIn, and actually all the content that on LinkedIn gives you more information than I could ever give you in a resume. let's just do that. And you'd be surprised. Everybody's like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just send them that link. But for some reason, still stuck with this. Hey, I need your resume. I'm sorry, your little. I tell you what, my friends. Over the holidays, I'm redoing all of the streaming stuff. I will spend less time looking to the right, trying to fix the stream. I can't wait for that. So early 2020, we're going to have this stream jazz figured out. I won't be frustrated. Okay. Yeah, I want your little alert. You deserve that, my friend. Here, let me go back here. I think I can force it. So for those folks that are here, been talking about hiring. VA Agile had some really great questions that I talked through. This happened again. Scrum Sarge. Oh, we're just flooding in now. Okay. Well, it looks like you've subscribed 11 times, 3 times. Thank you. Scrum Sarge, I totally get it. I totally understand that situation, that I am lucky enough to be in that position. But how would I flip that script? How would I do it differently? So let's pretend I am coming out of college, looking for jobs, just building my resume. I still would invest in LinkedIn as we'll speak from the engineering side of the house because that's how I grew up. So that's what I know. As an engineer, I would link to my GitHub profile. I always get excited when somebody is confident enough to link their GitHub profile. I get it. It's scary opening the world, saying, "Hey, look at this. This is the code I write. Judge me." But I want somebody that's comfortable enough doing that. So I would do that. I would try and contribute to some open source projects or things like that where I can show who I am. I would find a way, I don't know how, I would find a way to really drive eyeballs to my LinkedIn account and GitHub profile. So then let's transition for Agile coaches. What are reference points that we can come up with that would be a good thing to point to that can give that recruiter, that hiring manager, more about you, more about who you are, what that looks like? You could, I think videos are super powerful. You could ask, the teams you're working with if they're okay with you videoing things. Perfect. Boosting a user group. By the way, thanks to Scrum Sarge's resub, everybody gets all of these new holiday emotes. So in your emotes, just search holiday. And those are all there. Yeah, that to me that's the more dynamic content that I look for, that I try and provide in LinkedIn. So I provide links to my blog, there's YouTube videos of talks I've given, YouTube videos that we built around the organizations that I worked at, that I built. So as an agile coach, invest in a little bit of content about you. Put that on there. Separate yourselves through investing that time and energy to write about your journey, write about what you believe in. Just engage in communities. I think one of the things I value is I value folks that engage in communities, like Scrum Sarge, the fact that you host a user group. That's that I see that on a resume, top of the list. There's things like that that in the agile coaching realm you can do. You can get involved in those user groups. I assure you. In fact, let's ask Scrum Sarge. I bet you would like help with that user group that you host. I bet you're looking for different locations or new content. Yeah, absolutely, Charles. Volunteer effort, exactly whatever way it might be. And that volunteering with those hosts. Yes, Scrum Sarge. I tell you what, again, so we go back to the things we talked about before you guys joined was what I'm looking for. Unfortunately, not enough people look for this. I am looking for someone that sees a gap with something and is uncomfortable and wants to solve that problem and does something about it. That's what I look for in a new hire. Did they look around at their environment in their previous job and say, this really sucks? Yeah, it might be hard to change it, but I'm going to change it. So yes, having boosted meetups, started meetup groups, all of those things, there's never enough help. Never ever. You always need new places to host. Speakers are often harder to come by than you think. Volunteering to speak at one of these things, while it can be scary, it's an opportunity to practice. And there is no better place than a local meetup to speak. Venue is small, attendance is usually small. Risk is kind of lower. It's often a great place to practice your craft and get out. Yeah, help that local host. Find that person. I tell you what, that's one of those things that's kind of frustrating. Is I've tried to help, and figuring out who actually is leading events is harder than it is. Maybe you go to meetup.com and they have organizers or something. That's often your best bet, is to go find who's doing that. But sometimes that's not even the person that's actually running anymore. That's just who created the account on meetup.com or whatever it is. There's some challenges there of just, who do I get in contact with to help? Like, so many times what I do is I try and just reach out to meetups out there and, like, we will host, but finding the right person that can actually get me an answer on, yeah, we need places to be, is harder than you would think. I wonder if there's a business there. I wonder if there's a directory or something. Be good. Okay. I'm gonna hit the 30-second break ad, and recap for those folks that couldn't join until later. So see you in 30. We are back. Let's see. We had a pretty sweet ad for Coca-Cola and Twitch. Yeah, keep things simple. That's right, Lori. Always default to simple. Okay. So stream started out focused on hiring. First two topics I discussed. Number one, never ever settle. PA Agile asked if I had ever settled just to get a warm body in. The sad answer is yes. Have, and my success rate is very, very low. So I have learned not to do that. So I encourage you all to use my painful experience to not do that. I understand it can be hard. I understand that there will be pressure to get somebody in there to do that. But the value of hiring someone that's really great versus somebody that's just okay, there's a huge difference. Waiting an extra month or 6 weeks, the value well offset. Second item we talked about was the only way to really do that, the only way to be really successful with candidates is investing early in the pipeline. And by early in the pipeline, what I mean is really investing time with the person or persons that are out searching for the people that you're looking to hire. Oftentimes it's a recruiting company. Maybe it's an internal recruiter, whatever it might be. You have to spend significant amount of time helping inform them about what you're looking for. The biggest hurdle to that is actually spending time crystallizing what you're looking for, what a great hire looks like. So often companies make the mistake of just building a checklist of things that if somebody has this many years of that, this many years of this, let's hire them. Let's get them in here. What that creates is a lot of waste in the on-site interviews. On-site interviews are very expensive. And when they consistently go bad, people get frustrated and they start to say, why are you bringing these people in? So one metric that I have that I talked about was I keep track of the percentage of people that we bring in for the face-to-face that we hire. The best I've ever done is 75%. So 75% of the people that we brought in to meet with the team, we hired. That's the best I've ever done. But that happened when I was hiring the most rapid fire. That provided me the opportunity to get feedback and continually refine the process. So I believe that when I get to a spot like that again, where I'm hiring rapid fire and I have the opportunity to do hiring more, to get better at it, to refine it, I'll get back there. Because hiring's hard because you don't do it that often. It's not like a sprint that you do every sprint transition 26 times a year. Okay, Charles. So great versus okay. I have a Venn diagram that I use that defines great for the type of people that I look for. And I want to be clear that the type of person that I hire is likely different than the type of person that other people hire. So for me, it's 3 things. And I'll talk through the order. First and foremost, they have to be smart. And in reality, smart isn't IQ, isn't 85 degrees. It's how quickly can you learn things? That's really the value that we're looking for. Because our industry, there's so much change. You have to be willing to learn. And my teams are going to aggressively grow. So I want somebody that's willing and capable to learn and learn quickly. Second, are they a team player? I always roll with Agile. So you might be the smartest person in the room, but if you're a terrible teammate, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. In fact, it actually makes things worse. It destroys the rest of the team. There's a lot of frustration, a lot of suffering, all of that stuff. It's just so, number 1, smart, aka learn fast. Number 2, great teammate. Number 3, actually get shit done. What that means is there's a lot of really smart people that are great teammates that never actually ship a thing. We are in the business of shipping value to our customers. That's our job. Our job is not to write the most elegant code. Yes, that's important. But our job is to ship value to our customers so that our customers continue to pay us for the value that we provide. If we don't, our customers will go find somebody else. So those are the three things. How do I figure those things out? Smart. Learn fast. We have built a pretty lengthy process that measures ability to learn and teamwork at the same time. So we have a set of questions where we ask people to design a solution. We want that solution design to be in a realm that they're comfortable with, but we try and stretch them a little bit. We try and push them a little bit beyond where they're at. And that needs to be a dialogue with our engineers in this hire about, why did you do it like that? What would you do? Well, I think maybe we should do it like this. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that candidate to engage in a discussion as a great teammate and work together to get to the best solution. The key thing for learning fast is it's got to be a bit of a stretch for them, and you find out how comfortable they are with something new and different. Folks that don't learn fast, if you push them out of their comfort zone, they quickly retract back to their safe spot. I'm looking for somebody that's comfortable venturing into a different world, venturing into something that's slightly different. That's a great indicator of, I'm comfortable trying something new. I'm okay because I know I'll get there. I'm not worried about it. I'll figure it out. So get shit done. For me, what that gets back to is, are they willing to drive change? Are they almost like incapable of being in an environment where there's something that frustrates them that's not right, that they just can't stand? So the primary question I do to sort that out is I ask them the best team they've ever worked with and the worst team. Then I also pair that with the best teammate they've ever worked with and the worst teammate that they've ever worked with. So those are 4 questions, pretty similar. When they describe the best team or the best person they've ever worked with, you get this interesting view into who they aspire to be, how they aspire to grow, how they want to, like, that's we talked about growth mindset with VA Agile, and that's a key thing is, do they have this target that they're going after? Do they know where they're going? Do they know what they're not good enough at yet? So there's that. The other key piece is when they talk about the worst team member they've ever worked with or the worst team, the follow-up question, the only question that really matters with that is, okay, what'd you do about it? How'd you handle that situation? So at that point, what I'm looking for is somebody that's uncomfortable with the way things are and is going to talk about the things they tried. Maybe they didn't fix it. That's okay. I don't care if they ultimately fix the problem. What I want to see is that they tried. They did everything in their power to make it better. That's someone I want on my team. So many times, all of those stories end with, yeah, I tried, I did everything I could, and eventually I just realized the best thing for me to do was leave. I hated it. It felt like I was giving up or whatever, but it was the right thing. And they ultimately need to do what's right for them. You know, if they're unhappy in that position, staying and fighting that fight. I've done that. I've opted out because fighting that fight just wasn't worth it. I want to see that they did something, that they actually got shit done. They said, I'm gonna fix this. Daggone it. I'm not gonna let this go on like this. So what you'll find out is that when they're willing to do that with themselves and their teammates, imagine the passion they'll bring to delivering value to their customers. That's fantastic. So that's the approach, that's the mindset that I look for, trying to hire great people. I've got there's a handful of, I have to go back and look, podcast episodes that we've done on the Metacast about that. If you want some more in-depth things, let me see. Maybe? Can I type? All right, so here, I'm going to give you this chat. Well, VA Agile. So, Charles, those are all the posts from our podcast that have something to do with hiring. Hopefully there's something there that can help you in whatever you're looking for. My goal, gosh, I'd have to look at the calendar. My goal is to stream every week. I streamed on Christmas Day last year. I did get in a little bit of trouble from my wife. But it was short. My kids were in the background. We just said hi. I'm doing that. I wanted to maintain consistency. So looking at Fridays in December and early January, nothing appears to interfere. So right now, I plan to stream every Friday. I'll be here. I know you're probably looking for a break. Like, hey, just give me a Friday night / Saturday morning where I don't have to get up. Because I'm in Australia, Josh. Like, give me a break, please. So yeah, look in the calendar. I expect to be here the whole time. Okay. Well, anything I can help with, folks. That's right. We were number one. We did hit the top of the list. Was that the, thank you very much, VA Agile. That is so kind. Was that the Sippy Cup day, Scrum Sarge? Oh, that was Sippy Cup. So for those of you that weren't there, the Sippy Cup incident. I think it is when we were top of the charts because it was New Year's Day and not everybody else was silly enough to be streaming. So in Twitch, you end up, you go in a category and the things at the top are the things that people click on. So people just would try it. So random people would drop in. And there was a user named Sippy Cup that came in and, it wasn't Sippy Cup. Well, we'll still talk about Sippy Cup. Sippy Cup came in at some point, stumbled into our stream and was just basically being a jerk. And I think we handled it pretty well. Pretty proud of us. Did a good job. But for a while, for a while we had to turn on like follower only streams because that's a setting you can have where you have to be a follower to chat, or you can go really far with, you can make it subscriber only chat. So you have to subscribe to be able to chat. Some of the bigger channels do that. That's not who we are. That's not what we're about. So we're not going to do that. So we had to turn on follower only chat. Also, I think there's things where you have to at least have been in the stream for 5 minutes or something like that before you can chat, just so people don't come in and be jerks and then fail. Yeah, I definitely learned all about bans and timeouts. I think in that time frame, I also accidentally banned Bob. So there was that. That was funny. I felt terrible, but I did that. Yeah. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how things go. Oddly enough, Twitch sent out a bunch of stuff kind of prepping people for the holidays, because the holidays happen and people get new devices, people have a bit more free time. Twitch is going to invest in advertising more for Twitch. So they really were pushing, hey, be ready. You might get an influx of viewers for the holidays. We certainly saw that last year. So that'll be cool. It'll be fun. Good news is we've been doing this for a year. We've learned a lot more and we are ready. So bring it on. Do your worst. Got it covered. Okay. I'm out of here. I'm going to go have some lunch. VA Agile, you go to sleep, my friend. Everyone else, thanks for coming in. Thanks for the follows and the resubs. Fantastic. There was snow. The snow will be back, my friend. Snow overlays will be back. I think you can even like collect at the bottom. That's cool. All right. I'm out of here, my friends. Take care. Have a good weekend. Enjoy everything you got going on. We'll see you.